I would like to call this meeting to order, and this meeting will take place fully remotely pursuant to the law signed by Governor Baker on June 16th, 2021, an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which includes an extension until July 15th, 2022 of the remote meeting provisions of his March 12th, 2020 executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Furthermore, as required by the open meeting law, we are informing you that the district will be videotaping this public meeting. In addition, if anyone else intends to either video or audio tape this meeting, they are required to inform the chair. Do we have any agenda changes that you know of? Okay, well, citizens speak. Seeing none, let's move right on to our priority business, and we will do the reports later. We'd like to give Mr. Sumner a chance to speak first, so that we don't extend his day any longer than we need to. So the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. And unfortunately, my day's going to be long. The select board's meeting tonight, so I think we'll be going till 10 o'clock tonight. So, but thank you for allowing me to be first on your agenda. So I haven't met everybody, but my name is Charlie Sumner. I'm the interim town administrator. And just for background purposes, I'm from Brewster, and I was the Brewster town administrator for about 29 years and a town administrator in Massachusetts for 38 years. So, you know, my whole working career has been local government. Obviously, I've been retired since 2015. I recently was the interim town manager up in Provincetown, and then I was contacted by Wellfleet, and I was appointed last May of 2021 to serve as your town administrator. And I will say it's been really challenging, but I've enjoyed it a lot, and I've met some really wonderful people and gotten to learn a lot more about your community. And I keep going home and I tell my wife how beautiful Wellfleet is, and my wife's like, you know, you never want to go anywhere. I kept telling you how wonderful it is. So you guys live in a special place. Now, what's really been going on with my work here as it relates to the school department is the town had transitioned from an older version, a software, financial management software package, BMSI, and transitioned to a platform called Vento in July 1st in 2019. And it was just a horrendous transition. They just frankly never had beginning balances on July 1st, 2019. And they were playing catch up the whole time, never, you know, solving that initial critical problem. So, you know, the town's financial management system, you know, frankly, was in a state of chaos and free fall. So, and as a matter of fact, we haven't closed the books for FY20 nor FY21. So, we've been, there was an audit that was released last year that was really, you know, had a number of major concerns in the management letter dealing with a lot of the town's fiscal management practices. And so it started back when I mentioned in July 1st, 2019. And then the town had a tremendous amount of turnover, you know, in critical leadership staff during that whole period. I think there were 3 town administrators and 3 or 4 town accountants and other municipal finance officials. So they just never got their feet underneath them. So so at that point, we didn't have a town accountant So I hired Lisa Sauvé. Lisa Sauvé is the retired finance director from Brewster. And the nice thing about Lisa is she and I work together. She's really smart. And we use Vadar in Brewster. So, it was it was a logical choice. And then on top of that, I hired a woman by the name of Mary Mckinney. Mary is a retired auditor from the Department of Revenue, and then has held many other local government municipal finance positions on Cape Cod, mostly on the Treasury side, Treasury and collection. So having those two women really was critical. We had initially hoped to finish our sort of auditing review corrective action practices by the end of the calendar year for 2021, but we've had some other issues at Town Hall. Our assistant town accountant was on leave for 4 months. And then our treasurer at the time resigned on November 30th. So you had Lisa Sauvé serving as the assistant town accountant doing the reconstruction effort. And then we had Mary Mckinney having to step in as the interim treasurer, and then trying to still unravel the fiscal chaos, frankly, that we had inherited. So it's gone on a lot longer than we had thought and hoped, but that's the reason. Now, where do we go from here? We hired a new town treasurer, Cameron Scott. Cameron started yesterday. So that's a critical position that's filled. And then tonight at the select board meeting, I'll be recommending the appointment of a gentleman by the name of Nick Robinson as our town accountant. And Nick, I worked with Nick in Provincetown. He was the assistant town accountant in Provincetown. So, I think the pieces are starting, to come together. So, those critical positions are being filled. And then we're going to, within the budget, we're going to include some funding to keep Mary and Lisa on part-time as mentors to help these two gentlemen transition in their new position. So, why spend all this time and money and energy, your money, fixing everything? We want to make sure that these two individuals have the support they need as they transition and learn about the community. So we're backstopping their transition here with services from Lisa and Mary, and also the town of Brewster. I'm the town moderator in Brewster. I'm still active in Brewster, and Brewster's finance officials are going to be there to help with that transition as well. So, I think going forward, things will be fine. Now, couple of the things that we're up to now is we want to finish the audit process from FY20 and FY21 now that Lisa and Mary will have a little bit more time. And we hope to finish that process by, I would say, I guess maybe by the middle of April. Let's use that as a time frame. So we'll finish the audit process that we've been through. Then we can close the fiscal books for FY20. That'll automatically allow us to close the books for FY21. The auditors will come in right behind that process, do the audit for fiscal 21. And the reason I'm telling you all that is because then we can try to certify free cash for the town of Wellfleet. And that hasn't been done since June of 2020. So, it's all a lot of work, but it's been painstaking. And I know there was an element in town that was concerned that, there might have been some criminal nefarious type activity relative to all these fiscal issues. And we haven't found anything to suggest that at all. Clearly the transition to the new platform was flawed. And then all of the vacancies lack of training, all conspired to create the problem that we have today. Now, obviously, under your town bylaws, town meeting is supposed to be held on, I think, April 25th, Monday, April 25th. And then your election would be a week later on, well, approximately a week. Anyway, on Monday, May 3rd. The select board are going to be meeting tonight, and we will be making a recommendation to the select board that we delay the annual town meeting to early June. I'm not sure the exact date yet. They'll be talking about that tonight. It'll either be the 3rd or the 4th or the 11th of June. And the reason that we want to do that is to balance the budget for the current fiscal year. The warrant and the budget came together so late last year that we had to use $639,000 out of the town stabilization fund account to prop up the budget for the school and for the town, for municipal operations. And, it's just really a bad fiscal practice. It jeopardizes the town's bond rating. And that's why we're working so hard to get free cash certified, because we would like to replenish the monies that we took out of the stabilization fund at the annual town meeting. So everything we're doing is really to reestablish the financial basis of operation for the town of Wellfleet and to protect the town's bond rating. So I think now I have been working on a financial forecast, and right now the town, I'm projecting a shortfall, a budget shortfall of the town and the school budgets of about $481,000. I'm trying to get that down to $450 before we go to print. And what I'm going to ask the selectmen to consider is trying to get an override from the voters for that $400,000 to $450,000 for the operating budget, because we've used a lot of one-time revenues to balance the town's budget over the last few years, and it's just not sustainable. So in order to protect the programs for the town and school operations for the whole community, I'd like to repair the financial underpinnings of the town's budget. So that's that $400,000 plus override. On top of that, we have a whole series of warrant articles for facility repair, special projects, equipment replacement on the warrant. And those at the current time amount to $1,410,000. And we have no money to pay for that. So the only way we can do all of these important things is to ask for another override from the voters. Now, that's obviously way too much. It's almost $1.9 million. I've been working with the department heads to reduce the capital requests that'll be on town meeting floor. And by the end of this week, I'm going to have a plan in place that I'll present to the finance committee and the select board. And my goal is to get that down to about $700,000. So, so if we do that, one, we've stabilized the town's operational budgets, and then we've created an allowance, because every year you have to spend several $100,000 to buy cruisers and trucks and paint buildings and do all of the things that we have to do with our municipal operations. So anyway, that's what I'm up to from a larger financial perspective. Of course, we do have a couple of other overrides pending. The police department would like 2 new police officers, and the fire department is seeking funding for 2 new firefighters. I won't go into the detail of that because we'll be doing that later. And then, of course, we're going to have a Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion on the warrant for the school's fire suppression system. That's critical and important as well. So anyway, I think I'll stop there and see if you have any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Liberty, you're muted, hon.
Thanks. Thanks, Charles. That was really informative. I guess my question is, so there's going to be a 400,000, there's going to be two overrides, one for 400,000-ish and then one for 700,000-ish, and they're two separate things?
That's what I'm proposing.
Okay.
And the reason I'd like to do that in that manner is I want to make sure that the town's operational budget is backstopped and secure. That's critical. That's our employees, because there's nothing else to cut but staff. So that's like mission one, protect programs and the staff that's necessary to provide them. And then I'd like to get that $700,000, that what I really will characterize as monies that will be reserved every year for facility repair and equipment replacement, sort of like a special stabilization fund for capital items.
Any other questions? Yes, Jill?
Just a comment. Thank you, Charles, so much for your dedication and hard work. And my gosh, it certainly has been wildly challenging for you and others. Just a comment that I hope will get communicated. Over the years, Wellfleet Elementary School has stayed under 2.5%. And year after year, I look at all kinds of other departments that consistently aren't 2.5%, they're over. And of course, now we've got some extraordinary things like the sprinkler system, but will do and have to. I'm just hoping it will get communicated how hard those at Wellfleet Elementary that are responsible for budget have just been amazing, how for so many years our budget has been under 2.5%. So when it comes in discussion, you know, that darn expensive elementary school or whatever, you know, I do hope it does get communicated about how diligent the Wellfleet Elementary School has been to keep things under 2.5%.
Yeah, well, thank you for that comment. And I frankly have already talked about that at Select Board and Finance Committee meetings. The reality is the elementary, the Nauset, and the Cape Cod school budgets are really saving our bacon this year because our total educational costs have declined over the prior fiscal year. Now, I understand in talking to Mary Beth that, you know, you've had a lot of retirements and new staff brought on board, and that has helped a lot. And then at the Nauset regional budget and the Cape Cod Tech, our enrollment is actually down, which isn't really a good thing in my opinion relative to how our communities function. But you know, yeah, I have already talked about that, and I think you know that I've also been involved in the interview process to hire a new town administrator. And we finished interviews, we'll be finishing preliminary interviews this week. And so in the next couple of weeks, I suspect the select board will be meeting our finalists for someone to replace me, frankly, and which will be just fine. But I think the goal would be that I would stay on in a part-time basis through town meeting, just to talk about the budget process and sort of the financial forecast and sort of why this is important to the, you know, overall health of Wellfleet in terms of providing services. And I'll definitely will talk at that time about, you know, really what's been going on with the school budgets. So rest assured. Yeah.
Thank you. And Brooke?
Thank you. Charlie, I just want to thank you so much too, because I know that we've had a number of communications back and forth with you over the last couple of months. And I am so respectful of the honesty and sense of authenticity that you've brought to this role. And you've just made, I don't want to speak for Gio, but I think that you've just made our lives that much easier. You know, we've called you with some tough questions and some tough situations. And I just think you're doing yeoman's work there. And I just thank you so much for working so well with our offices. We just so appreciate it. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that in there. Thank you.
Well, thanks. You know, and I've always, to be honest with you, been a huge fan of the Nauset school system anyway. So, I mean, I never really looked at town versus school stuff. To operations. We all provide, wonderful services to our community. So it's easy for me. And I will say, I've been retired for, I don't know, before I went to Provincetown, like 5 years. And it was kind of fun to be back in the game a little bit, and I don't know, I like working collaboratively, and I love local government and what we do for our citizens. So it's been really fun to be back in. I'm looking forward to retiring, honestly, but it's all been good. And as I say, to me, the job will be finished for me when we can finish all of this reconstruction effort. And then I would really love to see if, I can work to help educate voters, to ask them to consider supporting these overrides. I know it's a lot of money for people, and it's a tough ask, but we're going to do everything we can to reduce the scope of the request, as long as we get to a number where we can, look over the horizon and operate our, our carry out our financial operations in a way that stabilizes school and town operations. So that's, we'll be working on a series of policies and procedures. And I've been engaging the finance committee a lot, so that, there's really a sort of a team and a network going forward. So anyway, I think, I think things are improving, so.
Thank you so much, Charlie. I have to say you have a very interesting perspective about retirement. But I'm so grateful that you've been here for this. And thank you so much for coming in and talking to us tonight.
Yeah, thanks. I have to figure out that retirement thing. But anyway, I'm working on it. So.
Good luck.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Take care.
If anybody has any individual questions and wants to come in and talk to me, I'm always available. So.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks. And I guess it's time for the Wellfleet Elementary School budget for fiscal year 2023. A hearing on that. And Mary Beth, are you taking this? Unmute though.
I lost connection with the mouse. Shall I read what I had prepared?
Yep.
So Wellfleet Elementary School believes that every child matters, is unique, deserves to feel safe, and has the capacity to learn. West faculty and staff are dedicated to our mission to prepare each student to succeed in an ever-changing world by providing a rigorous academic program that integrates social, emotional, and global awareness. West is also committed to the NOSIT vision to provide enriching, diverse, and innovative opportunities to prepare students to be lifelong self-directed learners and contributing members of society. By learning how to think critically, problem solve, and collaborate with others, students will be able to reflect on their learning, set goals for themselves, and persevere when facing obstacles in a complex world. We will foster a global perspective through authentic learning experiences, expansion of the traditional classroom beyond the walls of the school, and development of educational partnerships and opportunities across the community, the United States, and countries worldwide. The FY23 budget reflects the resources needed to accomplish that vision. The FY23 West budget comes in at a 0.22% reduction. The budget maintains all current academic programs, interventions, and the free after-school childcare program. As a result of unanticipated retirements and resignations announced last spring and summer, most new faculty and staff were hired at a lower salary step, and one educational assistant position was for the FY22 academic year only. In addition, West does not anticipate Cape Cod collaborative placements in FY23. Increases are noted in specific line items such as long-term substitutes, the salary for the school psychologist, increasing that position from 80% to 100%, and replacement of obsolete instructional equipment. Substantial decreases are noted in line items such as educational assistant salaries, out-of-district tuition, and out-of-district transportation. Many line items remain level funded. Increases and reductions in specific line items are noted. In 4018, substitutes long-term, there is a dollar increase of $12,000. In 4028, instructional equipment, there's an increase of $32,000. And that again is to replace obsolete technology, both for students and for staff. Account number 4031, Instructional Technology, there's an increase of $6,245, and that is to add a new digital math curriculum such as Eureka Math Squared. 4037, Salaries for Guidance and Counseling, that's an additional $21,034, again, reinstating the school psychologist to 100%. In 4064, the special ed teacher salaries, there is an increase of $32,564. And that's because the new teacher that replaced the former teacher was hired at a higher salary step. Noted budget reductions are in line item 4011, which is contracted services, non-instructional technology. So that is a decrease of $5,272. And that savings is due to district-wide purchasing. Also in account number 4019, salaries ed assistants, there's a reduction of $19,083. And that is because one of our ed assistants did move into a teaching position. 4035 and 4098, both are relative to our out-of-district students that we no longer have at Cape Cod Collaborative. So that is the savings in 4035 of $38,189 and in 4098 of $176. And the last budget reduction to note is 4088, which is preschool tuition, and that is a reduction of $28,994. So in summary, the regular day portion of the Wellfleet Elementary FY23 budget increases by $109,303 or 5.24%. And the special education portion decreases by $115,478 or minus 14.9%. The total difference then between the FY22 to the FY23 West budget is minus $6,175 or minus 0.22%. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know that we voted to accept this budget proposal last month. Unless there are some huge changes in it, I don't think we need to vote again. I think we're all set. This was a public hearing, so we're good to move on. Mary Beth, thank you so much for your amazing work on that. Just it's nice to have some good news when it comes to budget, for sure. I guess I'll move along with the chair report. And bear with me. Good evening and welcome. I hope that everyone's enjoying these longer days and somewhat warmer weather. Things have been busy on the district level for sure. The Joint Committee has adopted a new masking policy, and by next Monday, all of our school committees will have rescinded the former and adopted the new policy. This policy allows Superintendent Clenchey, with input from the town health agents and our nurse leader, to be flexible and change the course efficiently if the need arises. Here in Wellfleet, our school committee moved and voted to act on these policies effective March 14th in order to allow for a 2-week post-vacation period in case of a spike in COVID cases. I would like to thank Superintendent Clenchey, the entire central office staff, our nursing department, Principal Rodman, and the West staff for everything they have done and continue to do to keep our schools safe and to keep the learning environment vibrant and exciting, with the students at the center of each decision. And I'd like to end with some thoughts by Ed Miller of the Provincetown Independent. Just as I was saying, what am I going to write in my chair report this week? Out comes the Independent, and I found it incredibly relevant to things that we're talking about these days. In his most recent letter from the editor entitled, "What Are Schools For?" Ed Miller quotes Ted Sizer, the late education reformer. When asked what schools are for, Ted Sizer said that he wanted teachers and principals to look beyond test scores and grades. He said, I care about the kid who reads a newspaper and bothers to vote and votes in an informed way. He wanted to educate students to do the right thing, even when no one was looking, just for the sake of doing good. Ed himself goes on to state, the benefits of good public schools aren't going to be obvious on a balance sheet, but they are obvious at town meeting and on election night. And for me, the more I learn about our schools, the more I understand that we're striving to teach our students to think clearly and independently and to make decisions based on facts and on justice. We are helping them become, as Ed would say, the fellow citizens we want to be surrounded with. Respectfully submitted, Martha Gordon. And now, of course, I've lost my agenda. Of course, the principal's report.
I did attend the PTA meeting last night, so I think if I could, I just wanted to give additions to our school events. So last night, the PTA did approve staff appreciation would be held on Friday, May 6th. Westfest is coming back this year. Our carnival down at Bakersfield, and that will be held the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, which is May 28th. And the end of the year family and staff bonfire. I believe it will be at Newcomb Hollow, as it always is, and that will be on the last day of school, June 30th, which is a Thursday. And typically it's about 5 o'clock. So once I get all those details, I will be sure to include that in my report.
Any questions for Mary Beth? Seeing none, Superintendent Clenchey, we're waiting.
Thank you. So my report is relatively short this month, and primarily because it's been budget. And it feels so good to be coming into the end of this. Giovanna has just been amazing. The amount of output and work that are being generated from her team and her own office has just been phenomenal to watch. I think the last several weeks have just been all about building and refining the various budgets across the NPS schools. We've continued to have multiple meetings as we refine things and such. So I feel really good about where we're landing here. This year we did make some subtle changes to some of our processes with an eye to the future, and where it made sense to do that, we tried to do that. It's been an incredibly busy budget season, and I just want to thank everyone who's been involved with any level of participation on this. The second item I've got on here, and I do have a little 4 that I'm going to add on here. I know I've only got three listed here, was meeting with Senator Julian Cyr. I just want to thank him so much. I really enjoyed our discussion. It was just rich. He clearly has a deep connection with NOSIT, and that was amazing. And to hear him speak about it with such passion was just wonderful. I appreciated his time, his passion for the work, for doing great things for our school communities. And I really look forward to connecting with him again. So time very well spent in connecting with him. The third thing is more of a management thing. I had talked to Jim Nowak, who's Geo's second in the district. in her department when I first got in, and the lights in the office seemed a little dark to me. And I wasn't looking for anything really, really bright, but just a little, maybe just turn up the dial a notch. And he said, well, he says, sometimes people have these incentives, the light companies have these incentives. Let's look into it. Let's see if we can get somebody here. And by gosh, didn't he do that? So the Nauset Regional School Central Office now has just been completely retrofitted with a project with the Cape Light Compact to replace our lighting and the ballasts to the LEDs. The costs and future savings to the districts are as follows. The total project cost was $11,935. The CLC incentive was $9,000, which meant that the ultimate cost to Nauset was $2,135. And we estimate that the savings will be paid back to us starting with what we've put out for about 1.34 years. So quick turnaround on that. And we have bright lights. It's just very nice. So if you come into our office and you notice the brightness, you'll have to say something to Jim Nowak because he just did great work with that. The last thing I have that's not on here, but I just want to kind of put it out there because we'll be preparing the March newsletter, superintendent newsletter shortly. And just keep your eyes posted because we'll do an update for the high school. And that, of course, continues to move along very nicely. But it's also starting to feel that a little bit more pressurized now as we're starting to lay out dates for packing and getting classrooms transferred and all the scheduling that's happening and who's going into what modular and what's that library going to look like. And okay, well, here's the cafeteria now. Okay, we're going to run it through the Cape TV station. And we've got also all these things now are all starting to come together. And it's just like, it's really happening and it's so exciting. So do be on the lookout for something to come out in our next newsletter, just for a quick update on the project at the high school. And so that's it for me. Happy to respond to any questions you might have. And I don't see any. So Martha, thank you very much.
I'll do it this way. Thank you very much. Okay, and we are now on to the Wellfleet Montessori preschool request. And Beth, that's to you.
Hi, everyone. Wow, you guys do so much work. I'm very impressed with all of what you do. And I really am appreciative of, having a space in the elementary school. And through the last 2 years, which has been really stressful, you've made accommodations for our program. And, really, because we have a different licensor, things can be a little tricky trying to merge both the blueprint and what have you. But I'm just gonna make it short because I know you guys are busy. But what we would like to ask is if we could have that space again for next year. And the thing that I would like you guys to consider is that because of what we've been through in the last 2 years and enrollment and all that stuff, we've had to really reach out and get some stabilization grants to keep our program sustainable. And what has happened is at the end of June, the stabilization grant will run out. And that's how we've been able to, have staff in our facility so that we could have and accommodate 13 children. Now, our ratio for EEC is 1 to 10. So if we have 13 kids and we have 2 teachers, then 3 children have to go to the bathroom. Then we have to make sure that we are always in ratio. So 3 children have to go. So it's kind of challenging. And these past 2 years, we've been able to survive by only having 2 staff. And by having the stabilization grant, we did get another staff member in this year, but that is just to be able to have director time. So it's really been a challenge to, have our budget break even. So we just would like to consider, because we know that rec next door has a toddler-sized bathroom, if it would be any possibility to be able to use that classroom space instead of our classroom space and kind of switch. That's the big consideration. And I understand that, might not happen, but I'm going to try. going to try to do it so that we can stabilize our program, get back to normal, and be able to, have staff in the classroom teaching the children. And it also helps the children because then those who are potty training have a space to just go instead of, we flash the lights, bathroom call, and it really interrupts the day, it really interrupts the program. And everyone stops to look, as they're trying to do their math or their reading. And so that is what we're asking.
Okay. So it sounds to me as though there are possibly two issues. One is just in general, can you use the space again? And the second one is it possible to switch with the recreation department?
Yeah.
And I think, first of all, are there any comments before we? Yes, Jill.
A couple of questions, Beth. How many children are you licensed for is my first question. And the second question that you or Mary Beth might be able to answer is the square footage the same in this room that you'd like to go to?
So our licensor in our space, we can have 20 children. I believe that the space next door is a little smaller. I believe that. Well, right now we have 13 kids. But next year, hopefully we'll be able to go back to probably like, depending on the budget, we'll have to really determine how many we can have. So it's kind of tricky, we can get more children, but then we need to hire another staff and then the budget goes. So it's a fine balance of like, okay, we want to support the community and we want to be able to go back to full enrollment. And it's just kind of tricky to say, oh no, we have to cap it at 13. And so that's kind of what we're in. We're in kind of a pickle.
Any other questions or comments? Liberty?
Beth?
Hi.
This is what we dealt with like 50, I was like, how long ago was this? 12 years when we were doing preschool stuff and it was the bathroom issue still.
Yeah.
I guess my question is just, does rec know that you want to switch rooms and do they have thoughts about that?
Mary Beth? I think
I did have a conversation with Becky. Beth had made the request back in April of 2020 as well. And I think the same issues are still relevant today when it comes to rec, is that the spaces are different. The space that rec is in is much larger, and they were able to bring in things so that kids could sort of get off the streets if it was inclement weather on a Saturday or Sunday and have a place to go that would be supervised and to be able to have these indoor small group activities. They do utilize that space up to 7 days a week on any given week, especially in the summertime. And if they switch the spaces, then it will compromise security in the building because they then would need access to the main building to be able, for those kids to be able to utilize the bathrooms, which then will put additional responsibilities Monday morning on our custodial staff, David, who comes in early enough already. So, potentially he'd have 2 boys' bathroom and the girls' bathroom to clean. One of the things too is that we did try to keep classroom doors closed and locked over weekends and after school when people were leaving. And that didn't always work. A classroom door could be forgotten. We might be short-staffed with a custodian who might be out sick or on vacation, and it's not secured. So if rec does have students or children in the space on the weekend and those kids have to go into the main part of the building, I'd have to give that code out to rec. And then will they be supervised or will they be walking around the building? So I know from my staff standpoint as well, there's real concern just about the security. So those were the thoughts that I had talking with Becky. She had spoken with Angel as well. And I spoke to a couple of my staff because of course we would love to make it work. I just don't know if switching would be in the best interest of all programs.
Yeah. I understand the security issue because when I'm in there on the weekend or if I have to stay late, I can't go in the bathroom. I understand that. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So when the rec uses the gym, all the doors on that end of the hallway are closed and locked, and the bathroom facilities are right there. And they're singleton, so it's not, the custodian doesn't have to clean, you know, all these stalls in a girl's room and a boy's bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or concerns? Beth, do you have anything you'd like to add? Brooke does, sorry.
Yes, thank you. So just from just a practical perspective, a couple of quick thoughts. You know, I do see this as more of a management issue in terms of, you know, I appreciate the request, but I also am concerned about liability and exposure especially for switching the spaces. So I think that the potential issues run deeper than the surface issues. And so I think that, you know, I hear Mary Beth saying, you know, we'd like to try to make this work, but from that upper level lens, there's also the potential for legal exposure that I personally, I would want to make sure we've done a lot of homework on that, because we don't want to put ourselves or the school or children or parents or anybody else at any additional risk here in terms of, and when I say that, just in terms of liability. So, so I think that there's some homework there that might need to be done as well before responding either way to this request.
You know, I really want to, you know, thank you guys for all the explanation, because it really, I understand now completely why it's such a challenge. I didn't realize that they're in there 7 days a week, and I didn't realize that they were using that all summer. And gosh, I would not want to be liable for any of that, you know? So I understand. And we'll figure out another way. It's just, we just had to ask, and, you know, it was, it's always been a dream to have a bathroom in the classroom, so the toileters can go, and then, you know, we don't have to hire staff to just do laps down the hallway. But, you know, we get through a lot, and we've had this problem since day one, and I just had to try yet again. But I really appreciate all your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, keep trying, Beth.
Yeah, we will. You know, those
You never know. You never know.
No, we don't. And I'm just gonna do a lot of walking, and that's great. I like the walking, and I get to see everybody and say hi to the kids that have aged out, and it's always so enjoyable to like say hi to
They
them.
love seeing you. They really do love seeing you guys. Very
It's
grown
really
up.
funny. It's
Yeah.
funny how one day, I will just share this because this is cute. I was, you know, going to shut the window at the end of the day, and I look out and I see, oh my gosh, really? Those are you guys, how old are you? And they're like, oh, we're 14. And I'm like, what? I've been doing this a long time. Like, I mean, I think some of them I think might be graduating this year, right? Like, that's a lot of years that I've been doing this.
Wait till they're bringing their children to your preschool class.
And they were like, oh, we remember you. And I was like, wow, your handprint's probably still over there. And it's just so nice. It's a great community, and the kids are just so precious. And it's great to see them out and about and be confident and like, be like, oh yeah, we remember being in there. And it's just really good. Yeah.
Well, it's great. Well, in the meantime, I think we can vote on the first part, which is allowing the Montessori school to use the existing space. If somebody would like to comment on that before we move on or move the question?
Jill Putnam, I move we accept for another year the space for the Montessori school
I'll second.
Great, thank you, Laura. Thank
as
you.
is. Present
is.
space.
And can we have a vote, please? All those in favor? Okay. Lovely. And now it's Giovanna.
Thank you. Let's go directly to page 8 of the expenditure report, please.
Thank you, guys. I'm gonna tune out. Thank you so much.
The prior month balance was $116,152. We spent or encumbered since last month's reporting $12,313, leaving a balance of $103,839. I'm going to identify those line items, those budget line items that we spent over $1,000 since last month's reporting. Starting on page 2, towards the bottom of the page, line item 4019, salaries ed assistants. Here we spent or encumbered an additional $2,070 since last month's reporting. And that was due to an adjustment due to an increase in the hours that were being worked by the lunch monitors. So that increased since last month's reporting. Moving on to page 3, towards the bottom of the page, line item 4032, supplies, computers, and devices. We spent or encumbered $2,619 since last month's reporting, and that's all based on schools' needs. Moving on to page 4, towards the middle of the page, line item 4084, special education contracted services psychological. We spent or encumbered $1,500 since last month's reporting, and that's based on student need for outside psychological services. Moving on to page 5, towards the top of the page, line item 4102, transportation, Mckinney Vento. This is new this month. We spent $1,013, and that is due to the need for transportation as a result of being homeless. Further down on that same page, line item 4035, special education out of district transportation. We put back into the budget $8,000 since last month's reporting. All the bills have been received from the collaborative, and this represents savings. We didn't need all of the amount that was encumbered. Moving on to page 6, at the top of the page, 4048, salaries custodial. We encumbered $13,749 since last month's reporting, and that is due to a position being filled. We had hired a new head custodian, and this is to replace the position that belonged to the new head custodian. We finally were able to hire someone. The next line item on that same section, 4050, overtime custodial. We spent or encumbered $2,700 since last month's reporting, and that's based on need for additional coverage due to absences and additional time to required to clean. At the bottom of the page, 4062, the electricity. Abby went through and looked at the current amounts that we've spent and projected out for the remainder of the year, resulting in putting $5,000 back into the operating budget. So that's what happened there. We may have to revisit that as a result of the increase in costs that we're finding now for utilities and gas and everything else. So we'll keep monitoring that. And that is my report. Any questions?
No. Okay, thank you so much, Giovanna. And now I think the last thing on our priority business is talking about the possibility of some workshops for the school committees. And we would just love to hear any thoughts that you have on things that you would like to know more about, things that we can get better at, ways to improve how we're doing our jobs, I guess. And I just thought I'd open up to discussion, see if Robin or Brooke have any ideas too. Love putting you guys on the spot. Brooke, your hand is up.
Thank you. So I think it goes without saying, but I want to say it anyway. You already do a great job. So I want to put that on the table. I think that as a school committee, Wellfleet, you're just a terrific school committee to work with. So I think when we talk about workshops, I hear the notion of we can always improve to get better, because we can always do that. But then I guess I was thinking about it too, and Martha had mentioned it to me. I thought there's always things, especially when you bring in new school committee members to the table that just don't know things, right? And sometimes people just assume that you know everything when you take on this role, and you just don't, because there's so much to know. So, I mean, I was thinking about things, and again, not that you have to do any of these, but when Martha asked about some ideas and some suggestions, I was thinking everything from ethics to a workshop, to a budget 101, to how do grants really work, or how do revolving funds work, or I think that there's so many processes that a school district goes through, that if there's anything out there that you want to learn a little bit more about, even the roles and responsibilities for school committee members. I mean, MESC does a great workshop on what the roles really are, and how do you respond to the public when they ask you this or that or whatever. And so I think there's all kinds of things out there that if you have any interest in knowing anything more about that, or maybe you've just got a couple of different really random things you think, well, we never have time in a school committee meeting to kind of go in depth in some of that. But let's say, for example, I don't know, you say, well, what does that contract really look like? How does a matrix work? How does a teacher's matrix work? Like, you really have to ask yourself, how does that teacher's matrix work in terms of linking it to the budget? Because the budget this year, you're at minus point, was it 2.2, I think, Mary Beth, and yet your matrix is 4%. How does that work? So there's things like that I think that you might even just have a couple of major questions that we can just sit down and pull more information together for you. And it's just more, that opportunity to kind of sit down and go a little deeper into different areas if you want to do it. As a rule of thumb, I think very often school committees do this. Certainly every committee that I've worked with before has always had a couple of these types of sessions throughout the course of the year. It's not something I'm pushing by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's more just to say, hey, this is an opportunity that's out there. If you want to do something, just let us know. Superintendent evaluation is another thing. Like, if you don't know how to do that, maybe we could bring somebody in and say, okay, here's exactly how that process works. I know it's kind of random and all over the board, but those are just some of the things. Even charting the course. Like, I was thinking the other day, I thought, has everybody had charting the course? And if they haven't, should we be bringing MESC out to the Outer Cape and saying, hey, let's just do this, because we've got so many people who are brand new that have never taken charting the course. So maybe that's something we look at doing. So totally wide open to any suggestions. So those are just some ideas off the top of my head, Martha.
I had a couple of ideas too. One is that there seems to be some confusion. I'm seeing this as not just for the 5 of us, but for the joint committee. Perhaps, I mean, it would seem if we were actually asking someone to come in, it would be silly to have the person come in for 5 of us, and that I would hope that the other committees would be interested. But one thing that has come up for me is the question of open meeting laws and what's okay to do, what's not okay, and confidentiality, and exactly how do we as school committee members respond to the press, because that has come up right here in River City in the last couple of weeks. And the other thing I was thinking is, as far as the charting the course thing goes, I know I'm old, but I bet I could use a refresher. I think there are probably several of us who could. I don't remember whether, I don't know whether it was 7, 8, or 9 years ago that I took it. So that shows you how much I remember about the course itself. It might be a good thing to do as well. And then also, you know, just it would be optional. I'd see it as optional that nobody has to go to these. You know, people are busy. We're all busy. You know, I'm watching foreheads go like this right now, and I know. But it's would really be interesting, and maybe it's something that we can talk about as a larger group too. Robin, yeah.
May I just add one more thing? Just strategically too, there's some things that we can offer through the district, right? So I know many of you are on the DEI task force already, but we're hoping to expand some of those just strategic things to, I don't know what we'll call it, if we'll call it NOSIT universities or parent universities or some types of things that are just open to the whole community, so that people in the community, as well as all of you to join us, can understand what deep learning means and what DEI means. And then next year we're hoping, and I know I sent this out to you, I believe, I can't remember who it went out to now, about restructuring the professional development for diversity, equity, and inclusion to really start with a group that will work with the school committee first. So those will be great sessions too, that, you know, I hope maybe won't be optional, and those heads will probably scour at me a little bit, but they just, you know, again, setting the course is different, I know, but kind of just setting the course for NOSIT as to having the understanding at our level, at this level, and understanding, you know, how it affects policy, how it affects, you know, strategic curriculum and all the interworkings. You know, this is a big project, and that's just what I was thinking, some strategic supports as well.
Yeah, I would love that personally. Anyone else? Ideas? We're all very quiet tonight. Oh, Jill, thank you. Your hand's up, and you're, yeah.
I'm flooded with various diverse thoughts. First of all, Mass offers and has all kinds of wonderful material that people can read on their own. Once again, we do have varying work schedules in our group as well as other groups. I think it might be a challenge to get most people's schedules in alignment for a structured everybody together sort of thing. We've got a big range. You know, Wellfleet's pretty amazing. Of course, I'm biased, but our present school committee group, we have 5 educators. We all are in some field of education that we represent right now, currently on this school committee. And I don't think I've ever been on a committee before where everybody has educational background and experience. Also, you know, our committee right now as it stands is just so rich, which with our backgrounds and our experiences, I don't think there's any other committee that has 5 educators on board. And we all represent different parts of education. But once again, just thinking about busy people. I mean, you guys know, typically I'm working off Cape almost the whole week. But Mass does have on their website all different kinds of information that people can investigate on their own according to their own schedule. They have roles and responsibilities as school committee members. They have all kinds of stuff. And even as quite a veteran school committee member, there's stuff I still struggle with. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've Googled circuit breaker to try to really understand circuit breaker. And honestly, if I were to try to explain it to somebody else, I'm not sure I'm capable. I think I have the gestalt of it, but not the, very simple, not so simple. So again, random thoughts. I'm somebody where things have to percolate a little bit before I can give an answer. So, I'm not one of those who really typically can respond real fast. I'll think about it a little more. Yeah.
circuit breaker is very hard to understand. So Jill, I just want to put that on the table. It's kind of like chapter 70. I don't even know if the people that really created it still understand it.
Well, it's something to think about. For me, it's nice to learn with people. And I have to say, I don't have the self-discipline to say, I want to find out more about this. I'm going to spend the next hour looking through the website. No, I'm going to sit on the couch and read a book, or go for a walk. If I don't have to do it, I won't. If I sign up and take a course, I'm there, neurotically there, but I'm there.
And it demonstrates, the multiple. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
I mean, it does demonstrate the multiple intelligence thing. Some of us are more interpersonal, some of us are more interpersonal, right? Some would be a lot happier just researching on their own. Others would be more network, social, whatever, right? So it is interesting.
I guess if we offer enough choices and enough times that people who are interested will be able to go to something. You're right, though. I know we're all flat out.
But again, I did want to emphasize that on the website, before anything percolates or becomes a realization, as far as our ongoing lifetime learning, that people can go on the mass site. It does have a wealth of information.
And they're good on the phone too.
Oh, yes.
Really,
Oh, yes.
Very responsive.
And thanks for bringing that up, because I did have a question. It actually did percolate from a school committee meeting, and I did get in touch with Glenn Kutcher. And at the public meeting, at the school committee meeting, I did read his response for something that we were needed a little more guidance on. So true. I'm glad you brought that up, Martha. Yeah. Thank you.
And if no one has, oh, good, Laura, I haven't heard you tonight.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in workshops. And I can't even, all of the above that you've mentioned, whether it's budget, circuit breaker, I'm still thinking it's like something in my computer, but so I would, I would definitely, ethics, I know it's all on the mask stuff too, but I would be willing, if, time allows, to do any of them. And I'll be thinking on specifics, but all the ones that have been mentioned would be super helpful for me. Especially if we're talking like, things are starting to get back in person. I feel like I'd start learning better. I mean, this is super convenient, but getting back to things in person might help that as well. So thank you for bringing this up. It would be great. So thanks.
Thanks, Laura. And Liberty?
Exactly what Laura just said, like any and all of those things. And I also have like wicked Zoom fatigue at this point, because so much of everything is on Zoom. So yeah, I mean, anything in person at, time and convenience allowing would be awesome. But yeah, budget, like any and all of it, I need it, so.
And I also would like to echo Robin's suggestions too. I think for me, as a recovering elementary school teacher and curriculum person, I love it. So I'm happy to go and learn deeply about learning deeply, for sure. So yeah, thank you for that. Okay, Brooke.
Thank you. So just a quick thought too, you heard me speak with Charlie before we came on air tonight, and that was our first attempt today at having a larger group inside of our office. And we did a hybrid, and so we had the town administrators and their seconds and some school committee members in our conference room. And then we had the hybrid on our TVs, the large TV screens. So for example, Wellfleet and Eastham both stayed back in in their communities, and whoever was close to ours came into the center, and that worked really, really well. We're going to fine tune a couple of things, exactly as I had said earlier to Charlie. You know, we've got a great microphone system at the front, but I think that we need something a little bit more for the back. So as soon as we were done in the meeting, Ralph and Mackenzie from our IT team immediately went after it and took a look at, okay, how can we bump this up right away? So that I can see us even in the position of doing a type of hybrid, so that if people want to come in, they could come in, and if they wanted to stay online, they could stay online too. And that really worked well for us. And I think everybody really appreciated being together in that space, and it was very, very effective for us today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jill.
Wondering when that does come to fruition about workshops, if it would be possible to record them and archive them. So for those who aren't able to attend, that they'll be able to catch up on what transpired.
You're so smart.
Definitely. I think that that's something that we could look at, because now Arlene's on, and I'm sure she'll pipe in and tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure, Arlene, that we have the capability of doing that.
Absolutely. Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, any other comments, questions, concerns? All right, moving on to reports and information. Cape Cod Collaborative, Jill.
There was a meeting on Wednesday, February 9th, and the monthly meeting will be tomorrow. 4 committees have gotten suspended, or delegates, representatives from committees. So in other words, if a school district or a committee is not represented in 2 meetings, if they miss 2 meetings, then they're suspended until they show up again. So sadly, Nauset Regional has been suspended. There hasn't been anybody for a while. Nantucket, Provincetown, Sandwich, and Truro. Waypoint, which is the alternative high school, they have great successes of students that aren't working in their various home neighborhood schools. A great success, and really good graduation numbers too. Sadly, 3 students had to be turned over to Department Youth Services and expelled from the alternative high school. You know, confidentially and all that, we can't go into any more than that, with the exception of the teachers felt terrible, but there was true physical assault, and we're talking about big kids, you know, on teachers. So sad. And staff, of course, the morale is horrible, you know, concerning that, and they're getting trauma counseling and everything else, because any teacher, or I shouldn't generalize, but typically, of course, a staff in a placement like this are doing their darndest to make things work. So there's some staff that are quite heartbroken that this transpired, and you know, things were leading up, and you know, they had done their very best with all kinds of support. So sad, very sad. Okay. Transportation, of course, continues to be a problem with not enough drivers getting sick. We did vote to give drivers a stipend. One of the big snowstorms where we lost a lot of power and whatnot, but there was going to be school the next Monday. All these drivers and their assistants showed up to clean the top of buses, and they worked all day to do this sort of thing. So we voted for a little stipend for that. They don't get paid that much anyway. The new building that the programs will be moving into or have moved into, the Bridgewater State Building, Bridgewater University. You know, I recently had cataract surgery. I'm really having a hard time reading. I'm gonna have to get my, Okay. Space in the new building. Some of it, teachers are drawing lottery to figure out what room they get. Art and science teachers, though, get priority because they need rooms with a sink. We were recently talking about rooms with a bathroom, so art and science, they get bumped up in the lottery because of needing a sink. This has been interesting following what used to be the Lawrence C. MacArthur School in Yarmouth, which was an elementary school. I actually taught at that school. I was kindergarten half day and the other half day preschool integrated special needs. So it's been very interesting following this. And I had a room with a bathroom, which apparently my room on the corner with the good cross ventilation is something that a lot of teachers are coveting. The collaborative deals a lot with professional development. This is exciting that talk about pulling resources and economy of scale and efficiencies. Science department heads of elementary schools, middle schools, high schools have been meeting with Collaborative and Tufts University for regional professional development for kindergarten through 12. I would like to see preschool in that too, but we'll see. Bridgewater University continues to work with the Collaborative to provide licenses for teachers who need and or want to get their master's in special ed. Virtual learning, the Collaborative ages ago has been organizing through another entity, virtual learning courses for high school. Initially, it was for schools that could offer a course for a teacher, for students that they don't have. So let's say it's German or Mandarin. So instead of hiring a teacher in that language or having difficulty finding a teacher in that language, there's the choice in a lot of places to have the online course in that particular language. So saving money or not finding a staff person to teach. So that's obviously now with the pandemic and whatnot, that's really going strong. Also, if there's not enough students to carry on for a class, some particular language, this would also tend to save money for a school district that the kids could have the particular language cheaper or less expensive than hiring a staff member. The special program during the summer with Mass Maritime, this is quite complicated for the leadership program. Hopefully they'll be able to do it in the dormitories again this summer, but it gets tricky with the guidance of and COVID precautions with Bourne, and as we know, it can be a moving target. We're also conducting negotiations with personnel. There's no salary schedule like there is for what we know for our public schools for collaboratives, no salary schedule, no union. I mean, there is a salary schedule, but there's no union. So there are negotiations going on for, of course, the non-union personnel. Just a fact, it's probably not a surprise to anybody, but our health insurance is 25% more on this side of the bridge than the other side of the bridge. So that is something of concern and also amps up the budget a bit. There's other things. I mean, there's a lot, but these are the highlights.
Thank you, Jill. That's, again, a great report and very well detailed and documented. Thank you so much. I don't believe we need the Pta Liaison Report unless, Liberty, you have anything to add?
Mine's not as long as yours, Jill. They officially voted in Tia Scalcione as president and Lauren Hill as vice president, and Mary, I don't have my notes, but Mary is treasurer. And I think a woman was there last night named Jen, who's going to be secretary. It was like a 20-minute meeting. So it was short and sweet. And Mary Beth just talked about having no barbecue, but they're going to do the PTA at the Newcomb Hollow thing, the PTA, and then the West Fest. So, you know, when they're needing volunteers and support and stuff, I'll let you guys know.
I'm asking for a friend. Why am I raising my hand?
Call on yourself, Martha.
I'm waiting for you to call on me. I'm asking for a friend. Will there be a spaghetti dinner?
No, they're not going to do that this year. I would imagine just because it's usually at the end of March and it's like still COVID-y.
Okay.
It'll
Yeah.
be rough with the masking. I could be wrong about that, but.
No, I'm guessing you are. Mary Beth?
The last time we had spaghetti dinner, they did it in the fall of 2019, and it was hugely successful. They ended up raising more money than they had in the spring, because in the spring there's so many fundraisers. So I think if they're able to bring that back, they would prefer to have that in the fall again.
Thank you. Okay.
I love the spaghetti dinner. And Mary Beth, you didn't mention that you're doing Packet Week again this year, which is my favorite elementary school holiday, where you pack the different colors every day of the week. Like one day's Green Day, one day's Red Day. We literally had like a trophy. We would get wicked competitive with it when we were parents there. So I was really excited to see that. Really is like my favorite holiday. So.
Great. And I can't wait till volunteers can come in and read again during this week. So, Joan, anything for behavioral health?
Sure. I'll try to make it quick. Some people said it was the best meeting they've had in years because they learned so many things that were new. One of the things was the Aperture, I think it's called, evaluation, which is a 10-question assessment for everyone, for all elementary, and it's been done. It'll be done 3 times a year. Those children that come up as a concern go on to a 72 questionnaire, I guess. And those kids are flagged, and most of the people said that those kids have already been flagged. They're already getting the extra services. But that this kind of evaluation has an amazing online presence, because if, for example, something is flagged for executive functioning or for anxiety, you can go into this program and they have 30 to 40 different suggestions of reading material, websites, and all, and they can go into the classroom and do a whole classroom activity around that, or cluster kids and do individual, small group activities. But there's a lot of resources attached to this evaluation. So it's not an evaluation that one tends to do and then it just hangs there and you don't know what to do with it, or you have to make it up on your own. There is a lot of resources behind this. So that was exciting. The other thing that was most exciting, because Martha and I have been involved with the navigators for so long, but now there's a navigator at the high school, and her name is Jennifer Farron, I believe. And she is full-time. I think she's 8 to 4:30 or something like that. And people had never heard of the navigator. I mean, people on the committee didn't know about the navigators out there. It was shocking in some ways. And but she sounds fantastic. She's working with guidance and the nurse, and she's already got referrals. They have not put together yet how to advertise this to the community because it's very new. And so that's the next thing they'll do, is how to bring it forth. But she's already seen 50 some odd kids with referrals within the school from the support staff. So that was incredible, and people loved hearing about that. The elementary people said, what if we know a kid? Can we call you, Jennifer, if we have a concern? I know we're not a high school person, but can we call? And she said, of course you can. And then of course I chimed in and said, but what she'll do is refer you to, like if it's an Orleans person, she'll refer you to the navigator from Orleans, and that navigator will take over. So it's a great way in to a priority list with the navigators for each town. I mean, it's a wonderfully, I can't say seamless because nothing is seamless, but it's a very well thought out program. And to have this in the high school, along with extra other supports that have been hired for the high school is very exciting. Somebody asked me, and I want to ask this group, because I'm part of Outer Cape Solutions, which is, anyway, they asked whether that survey that was done in 2018 on youth risk, I know you were involved with it, Martha, is that going to be done again?
I don't know. Wouldn't the task force know that? Wouldn't Mary know that? Mary Buchanan?
I don't know, because I don't have all the connections yet, so.
Yeah. I can tell
I'll
you.
ask.
what
I
think
will
about
ask.
it.
If you
I
don't know,
probably
oh,
should.
but wait,
Go,
Brooke, yes,
go.
yes.
Okay, actually, I'm going to turn this over to Robin, who I think can probably fill you in on where we're at, because that's generally generated every couple of years. It's generally like an every 2-year cycle that it goes through. But Robin, I don't want to speak out of turn, so I'll turn this over to you.
I'm not sure I have as much information either, but typically you're right. It goes every 2 years, and I would assume it was postponed because of COVID last year, but I will definitely find some information and make sure Mary communicates that out to all of you. It's usually a coordinated event down here as well, and again, Martha, probably, if you've been together, it works through other agencies. It typically doesn't work through the public school system. It usually works through your agencies in your town to help facilitate that, but we do administer it usually every 2 years. So I'll check in for you.
Thank
Great.
you.
I have to answer somebody on that question, so if I can get an email about it, that would be great. Thank you. That's it for me.
I have one quick question. Is the navigator also, is the navigator part of Outer Cape Health or another, or Cape
No,
Cod?
she is. No.
She is.
This is their
Okay.
first step into, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is their first step into the school system. And it
Fantastic.
is Outer Cape Health, yes.
Great. So glad to
Yeah.
hear. Lovely. Any other questions?
Oops, I will turn my, I'm gonna mute.
Steering committee did not meet, has not met since the last time I reported in. I know we will be meeting later on in the spring. And the policy subcommittee, I hope, has not met since we met about the, okay, good, because I, for some reason, had it on my calendar yesterday. And I know it's next Monday, I know that, but it sent me into a bit of a tizzy. I think I had put it in every first Monday for some reason onto my Google Calendar, and that confused me. So I have nothing to report there. School council, Joan, it's you again. And you're muted.
Good. Please tell me we haven't had a school council meeting yet, right? When is it?
It's March 28th.
Okay, so I have nothing to report.
I might just come because I miss you guys. And then we are on the DEI task force. And Liberty and Laura, any new information?
And they're meeting tomorrow. I don't remember if we gave a report after the last one, which would have been a month ago, right?
Hold on one sec. No.
We didn't. Yeah. So the last one was a month ago, and Laura can probably add more than I can because it's a little hazy for me and I don't have notes in front of me, but we kind of did a lot of, and Robin obviously knows more about it, but there was like breakout rooms. It was actually really cool. I was in a breakout room and my daughter ended up sitting with me through some of it. And we were in a breakout room with some different students and diverse viewpoints. And it was really interesting just to talk about like what equity is and where we're going with this. So I would say it was more of kind of an overview, kind of getting a sense of direction on it. But it was a lot of like getting to know the other community members and people involved in it. So it was really interesting, really, I thought, great, productive. Good job, Robin.
Good.
Yeah, I same thing. I let you talk first because you were you said exactly what I was gonna say. So and the next meeting is tomorrow. And so yeah, we're just getting to know each other and I really am liking it. The people on it are great, and I think it's going to be a really good work. You know, it takes a while to kind of build and figure out what we're doing and who's doing what. That's all kind of getting decided in these last 2 meetings. And I think we'll really start getting to work in the next couple meetings. But yeah, Robin is leading it and doing an amazing job. So if you have anything, Robin, yeah.
So yes, thank you very much for the kind words. But yes, we're just trying to really, it's difficult work. So starting to build some trust and understanding of who's at the table, whose voices we're hearing. We had a nice session, and we did spend a lot of time in introductions and just hearing why people are there. Because we bring our own, cultures and visions and understandings and outcomes to the table. So understanding, and it was really nice, I thought, because we had a lot of people that aren't directly connected to the schools right now hear about the work, specifically some of the Democratic and some of the other political entities and some of the towns. I can't remember which towns, but it's just really interesting to hear how people are realizing this is actually a community effort. It's not just a school effort. And then we spent some time really we have to establish a personal team equity culture. So understanding again what equity means, so we are clear with the common definitions of those things. And yes, we're going to get to the work. We have 3 steering committees, and tomorrow when we get going, we'll be deciding what avenues underneath the strategic plan people want to investigate to understand whether the vision of what equity is, or what we believe belongingness and equity and diversity is at NOSIT or our community, does that match what we actually are seeing in our schools? So the teams will start breaking apart and developing ways that they're going to go find out the data and the information to see if our vision matches the reality, and if not, what are we going to do about it? So we're getting there.
That sounds so exciting. Thank you, Robin and Liberty and Laura. And the only other question I have is kind of like the question about workshops, future agenda items. Is there anything that people would like to talk about? Jill?
Just a question. Do we have a date for defending the budget to the Finance Committee yet?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Actually, that's probably a Geo question. I don't know whether she's probably looking right now to see, because we've been, at the last week, we've been setting up meetings in the different communities. And remember too, that we're waiting until the region has done its budget, because we can't go until it's done and we're hoping that it will vote it. Now, I hope, Gio, I've got this right, that the region will vote for its own budget. I think this Thursday is what we're hoping for. So we're looking at trying to set up the meetings for everybody right thereafter. So Gio, I'm not sure if we've got Wellfleet lined up yet or not.
Arlen tells me it's March 15th.
And that is what
March
Rebecca
15th?
just told me. Yes.
So March 15th is, wow, next Tuesday. So my guess is this is something that you'll need some school committee members to be there.
I'm not sure how you have done it in the past. And so I would be following Gio's lead on this, to be honest with you. And the March 15th, Arlen, I'm just putting out there is problematic for me. So Gio, can you talk to us about what's happened in the past, or Martha, whoever's been on this committee before, if you could just kind of give us a flavor, because I don't know what you've done in the past.
Okay, before COVID times, typically it would be the school principal who would be presenting the budget to the finance committee well ahead of other things. And some school committee members would also be present just to be present, or maybe we might have something to add. So now with Zoom, I don't know myself what the procedure would be, or the preferred way to do things.
Mary Beth?
Typically, we would be invited, it would be sort of a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee, typically, and then we would present it. And this is typically before school committee, I believe, votes the budget. It's done quite early, I forget. But there was a year that we weren't invited. Early in this process, I did speak with the chairperson of the Finance Committee. And so I was waiting for an invite to present the budget, and I had not. And the 15th is problematic for me.
So we need to communicate that that does not work for administration and or committee people. It's so important to have good communication. So there is a date, but we don't know about it.
Brooke,
Thank you. So Arlen can just reach back. I think Arlen, you just got that memo, to that notice tonight, did you say?
Tonight, yes,
yeah, we
Rebecca
just-
just emailed me. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we can go back. Just as a rule of thumb, generally school committees take their budgets to their FinComs and their Board of Selectmen's after they're done. So that your school committee is kind of wrapped up, you kind of see it as, it's a school committee's role. You have the 3 key roles for school committee, right? You've got the superintendent, policy, and review of the budget. So it is your budget to own, to take over there in terms of yours and Mary Beth's type thing. And then, so you normally kind of, once you've got all the kinks worked out or whatever, then you take it over. And of course, in this case too, your region would take theirs at the same time, I'm assuming. Jill, is that your memory as well, that the region takes it over at the same time?
And not necessarily. There's been times where we just did the Wellfleet budget to the Finance Committee and or Finance and Select. But what comes clearly through all the years, and of course, we have such a budget to be proud of with such a small percentage. Really, I mean, it's amazing. I get all the multifactorial pieces of it, of why it's that way. But I know that in the past, especially the Finance Committee has appreciated early communication. But of course, there's nothing really that is crucial to defend in that either, though, you know? I mean, sometimes you'll get a question of why is this such a increase, and then it makes sense. But the bottom line has always been how important communication is. No surprises.
Mhm. And so I would say that that's exactly what I'm used to as well. And Gio, I just want to point out that we've already sent dashboards off to them, our 4 communities. So they've already seen, there's absolutely no surprises to our municipal leadership. We've sent things all the way along. Gio, would that be a correct way to explain it?
That's correct. We've been sending all of the budget documents to our town administrators for disbursement to their respective boards. So they are informed as to what's happening throughout the budget process.
Yeah.
Great.
So I think that our level of communication, I think, has been quite strong this year, from my perspective. So I think this is just kind of finishing it up now. And we've had, not from Wellfleet, but I think, Jill, to your point, I think it's just because the budget has been what it is, as opposed to some of the other communities. We've gotten some questions from back and forth from Board of Selectmen members of FinCom. We just haven't from Wellfleet, but Wellfleet's in a different position too this year. So that could be just what it is too, because you've got a lot of different moving parts right now. So that might just be all it is. So anyway, but I do agree with you. I think it's really important. What we're seeing in the other communities is exactly, Jill, what you're saying, coming in with both the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom. And for example, in Brewster, it will be both the Brewster schools and the regional at the same time. And I believe that's what we're doing in Orleans as well. Gio, I think at Eastham too, is it not? I think that's what we're doing. Yeah, so basically the one night when everybody kind of goes. So I think that's kind of, we just made the assumption that we would be doing the same thing in Wellfleet.
We usually do it that way. The few times that I remember that we haven't was because for one reason or another, the regional budget wasn't ready when we were asked. And I do believe there was at least one time during my tenure where the region had to come anyway. I remember Tom was the superintendent at the time and say that they weren't ready. They wanted another week. At the select board meeting. It was before COVID, but I remember that happening, Brooke.
I think the other thing too this year is the region had a very, very active budget and finance group. And I say that with affection. But there's been a lot of meetings, a lot of work that's been done behind the scenes this year with that particular group. So, and those meetings, of course, are all open to the public. So anybody can come at any point in time and watch those meetings unfold. So there's been an awful lot of work, but I think that they're in a good space right now. I think that it's really, I think from our end, I think you've got a couple final things to wrap up there, Gio, on Thursday. And
That's
I think that
correct.
the region should be wrapped up. So knock wood, we'll see if unless they decide that they're going to make some other changes. But from our perspective, I think we've brought it as close as we possibly can to the end.
If not, please feel free to get in touch with me or with Brooke about anything that you think we should include on our agendas in the upcoming months and certainly next month. Otherwise, we'll just have to make stuff up and or have a very short meeting. No, I'm sure things will come up, but if there's anything any of you think about, please let us know. And we need to make a motion to approve the minutes unless people have corrections or questions. Mary Beth.
I would just like to make a correction under playground update on page 2 near the top.
Okay.
And it is the third sentence. CPC will be funding the majority of the playground at $385,000. I would like to restate that pending town approval at town meeting, CPC will be funding $315,000, not $385,000.
And pending approval of town meeting, you would like included as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Would someone like to move that we approve the minutes as corrected, amended? Somebody?
Jill Putnam, so moved.
Jill. Second, please.
A second.
Thanks, Jill. Laura, thank you. And all in favor? Okay, so tired. And a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved, Jill Putnam.
Thanks, Jill.
A second.
Thank you. This is where we miss more. Okay. I don't think we have to, we can wave. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, everyone. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you all.